as more damaging emails are leaked by WikiLeaks, raising more accusations of anti-religious bigotry and anti-Hispanic comments now, too, within Hillary Clinton's inner circle. Welcome to the Kelly File, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. Just another night in 2016. We'll get to the latest on Trump and women shortly, but first to the Clinton controversy. As we first reported last night, the emails obtained by WikiLeaks were sent several years ago. Among those included on the exchanges, Clinton campaign chairman John Podesta and Clinton campaign communications director Jennifer Palmieri. In these messages, people of faith are insulted, and there are even suggestions that the Catholic Church doctrine needs to be overthrown by Clinton's team, which apparently knows better what's good for us. The Clinton campaign argues there's nothing to see here, there's no bigotry, and they blame the whole ordeal on the Russians for exposing the emails in the first place. But the Trump campaign was quick to pounce on the story.
The new emails also show members of the Clinton team viciously attacking Catholics and evangelicals. They attack Catholics and evangelicals viciously. And that won't be tolerated, but it won't be tolerated by the voters.
In moments, we'll speak with Bill Bennett, a Catholic and a Trump supporter, about the political fallout, along with Democrat Julie Roginski. But we begin with Trace Gallagher with the late-breaking developments live from our West Coast newsroom. Trace?
Megyn, the newest batch of leaked emails is from 2012, a time when the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops was strongly opposing a mandate in Obamacare that called for federal funding of contraceptives. In an email to now Clinton campaign chief John Podesta, Sandy Newman, the president of the liberal group Voices for Progress, writes, quoting, "There needs to be a Catholic spring in which Catholics themselves demand the end of the Middle Ages dictatorship and the beginning of a little democracy and respect for gender equality in the Catholic Church." Newman, who's Jewish, goes on to admit that he's not qualified to be involved and doesn't know how to, quote, plant the seeds of the revolution. But John Podesta responds by apparently assuring Newman that the revolution is underway and that he is helping to push the progressive agenda on the Catholic Church. Quoting again, "We created Catholics in Alliance for the common good to organize for a moment like this. But I think it lacks the leadership to do so now. Likewise, Catholics United, like most spring movements, I think this one will have to be bottom up." When the first bunch of Catholic bashing emails was leaked, criticizing our boss, Rupert Murdoch, for raising his kids Catholic and calling conservative involvement in the Catholic Church, quote, an amazing bastardization of the faith, we noted that John Podesta, who's Catholic, did not respond. But the current Clinton campaign communications director, Jen Palmieri, apparently did, writing, quote, "I imagine they think it is the most socially acceptable, politically conservative religion. Their rich friends wouldn't understand if they became evangelicals." Palmieri says she doesn't recognize the email, but then she was pressed on whether she actually wrote it. Watch.
I said I didn't recognize it, but moreover, we are not going to fact check each of the emails that were stolen.
Little struggle there. The conservative group Catholic Vote, which claims 500,000 members, is calling on Palmieri to resign. Quote, "Catholics will be watching Hillary Clinton to see whether she thinks our religious faith should be respected or whether it's fair game to mock us." The former U.S. ambassador to the Vatican, Jim Nicholson, says no religion should suffer this kind of denigration, and neither should Catholics. The Clinton campaign accuses Trump of colluding with Russia on these leaks. Former Trump advisor Roger Stone reportedly says he has back-channel communications with WikiLeaks but does not coordinate with them. Megyn.
Trace, thank you. Joining me now, Bill Bennett. He served as Secretary of Education under President Reagan. He's the chairman of Conservative Leaders for Education. Bill, good to see you.
Thank you.
Jennifer Palmieri, I mean, this is her on the inner circle with Hillary Clinton now. And her statement today on whether she was caught red-handed bashing Catholics. Let's just play it again and let the audience make up their minds about whether this is a truth teller in this moment.
I said I didn't recognize it, but moreover, we are not going to fact check each of the emails that were stolen.
You tell me, Bill, your thoughts.
What'd she say? The Russians did it? The Catholics did it? The Pope did it? Look, this This crowd has been anti-Catholic for a long time. This is leftist anti-Catholicism. These are transatlantic agnostic progressives. They do not believe in things like the authority of the Catholic Church. Now, as a conservative, I worry that the age of Clinton has been with us too long and may last even longer. But I got to tell you, I think the Catholic Church will outlast the Clintons, and I think it will be around when they are long gone. This notion of uprooting thousands of years of Catholic doctrine.
Revolution.
We know what this is about. Well, it's the Catholic teaching on marriage, on same-sex, on contraception, and most of all on abortion. They just can't stand that. Catholics, I hope, will take note of this. Their faith is being attacked, their faith is being disparaged, and they should react to it.
Can you imagine if this kind of talk were heard inside the Trump campaign about Islam?
I can't imagine, but if it were, heads would roll. They'd cut heads off, I imagine, in the proper fashion. But no, I mean, it would be crazy. Look, Michael Novak, a distinguished man, thinker, and Catholic, said there's one acceptable form of bigotry left in polite society in America, and that's anti-Christianity. And Catholicism, in its original form, is much hated. They would like to do away with it and its teaching. But others have tried, stronger parties have tried, and haven't prevailed against Rome.
Is she going to be able to get away with, I don't recognize that? That's a non-denial denial. I don't recognize it. Well, let me tell you, we put an email on the screen on Friday we got fooled. It was a bogus one about Hillary allegedly calling some Bernie supporters buckets of losers, which we corrected immediately before the show ended. They were very quick to tell us when we had it wrong. They didn't call up and say, we don't recognize that one. They said, that's a fake, and it was our bad. We made a mistake. I don't recognize that. It's not a denial. And you tell me whether, given the amount of people involved in this exchange, including the campaign chair, they need to come out and apologize. Is it so hard? I mean, say what you will about Trump and the women, and he needed to apologize, but at least he made an effort.
Sure. He did. No, he did. He apologized, but they won't. Look, they'll stall. They're looking at the numbers. They like the way the numbers look. Just stall. Rope-a-dope, run out the clock. Down the ball, throw it out of bounds. They won't admit to any of this. But the more that comes out, the more we see the heart and soul of this party. This is identity politics, and this is the underbelly of identity politics. People who don't agree with us are backward. They need to be educated. We need a revolution. And boy, that may be coming with the reign of Hillary Clinton, should that, God forbid, occur.
Well, I got to ask you about that before I let you go, Bill, because you've been a very strong supporter of Donald Trump. You've been an honest guy. You've supported him, but you've admitted when he's misstepped. And this weekend, in the wake of that Access Hollywood tape, you tweeted out, or you said publicly, it's a shame, a crying shame, but he can't win. He should step down. I hate to say it, but it's over. Do you still believe that?
Well, it's not over. He's not stepping down. I feared it might be because of the play the media was giving it. I do think he responded to it well, and he had a good debate on Sunday night. Mine was an empirical judgment based on the facts, based on what I thought the media would do with it, and they have done that with it. And, of course, sex overcomes venality. It overcomes anti-religious, anti-Catholic bigotry. But I think the way that situation developed in the debate helped Donald Trump a lot. I thought at the moment that Mike Pence, as the head of the ticket, might prevail, might do better. But that's impossible now. Those ballots are out there. Stick with Trump. This is still possible. It's hard because of the way the thing has been played and because of Trump's mistakes, frankly, many of them. But when you listen to what the Clintons are up to, and what this campaign is up to, and how intolerant and bigoted these people are, we can see what the stakes are, Megyn.
Okay, and I got to squeeze this one in before I let you go. Back in the 90s, when Bill Clinton was being accused by all these women, your brother, Bob Bennett, a famous lawyer, was Mr. Clinton's defense lawyer. You were out there criticizing Bill Clinton. Your brother was out there defending him. It was an interesting dynamic. But what do you make now of Trump's attempt to resurrect the claims of Paula Jones and Juanita Broaddrick and Kathleen Willey?
I don't know how much impact it has. Got to remember, audio tape has a palpability to it. People hear it. They hear it over and over again. If you had audio tape or videotape of Bill Clinton with Juanita Broaddrick or with Monica Lewinsky or with Kathleen Willey, he wouldn't be standing up in public today. That's the age in which we live. That's the information age. I think you'd agree with that. But I'm not sure how much impact that has. People don't know what he's talking about when he talks about Bill Clinton. To many young people, this might as well have been the Middle Ages.
I feel old. I don't know about you, Bill. Good to see you. Go.
Good to see you, Megan. Always good to see you. Thank you.
All right, I love that. Also with us tonight, Julie Roginski, a Fox News contributor and Democratic analyst. Julie, good to see you.
Great to see you, Megan.
You know, you were on the show railing about that Star of David. It looked like a Star of David.
Yep.
Trump said it was a sheriff star in one of his tweets that he retweeted calling her crooked Hillary. Do you see this as anti-Catholic bigotry by the Hillary camp?
Well, I see it as Catholics discussing what they consider to be a reformation in their church. And by the way, Pew just came out with a poll a few weeks ago saying exactly the same thing, that the attitudes of American Catholics, this is not a value judgment by me. I'm not Catholic. I certainly have no right to judge anybody in that sense. But what the majority of Catholics in this country feel seems to be very similar to what they're talking about and seems to be very dissimilar from what the Vatican is saying. I'll give you an example. 89% of American Catholics think that contraception is morally acceptable. 65% think employers shouldn't opt out of the law based on religious objection. You have 64 thinking homosexual behavior is not morally wrong. So if you look at those statistics, you look at the fact that the majority of American Catholics seem to agree with what Jen Palmieri and John Podesta seem to be saying in those emails.
You're being very charitable in your description of the emails, which are very pejorative in their tone. Very.
But they're pejorative, yes. I agree they're pejorative in their tone. I also agree that they're pejorative in their tone towards the hierarchy of the Catholic Church.
Also towards a couple of Latinos. Maybe you saw those where they referred, in August of 2015, Podesta, the campaign chair, urged Mrs. Clinton to reach out to Latinos. The email subject was needy Latinos and one easy call. And he went on to list Federico Pena, Bill Clinton's Secretary of Transportation, and former New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson as the two needy Latinos she should woo.
Well, I don't know what sense he meant it. Are they Latinos that necessarily wanted to reach out to her and weren't getting the respect?
Characterization of the, the Latino, they're just the dismissiveness. Now, if you saw that in a Trump camp email, you'd be going nuts on them.
Megan, I have to say this. On Latinos, I agree with you. On the Catholic thing, it's a little different. And the reason I took such offense with the Star of David tweet is because that's my faith. That's what I believe, and that's what I know.
Look out for all. I mean, if you defend one person of one religious belief and the attack on it, then you should be charitable toward all of them.
I am charitable, as I said, towards the fact that this seems to me from polling, and again, not my personal view, but it seems to me from polling, the vast majority of American Catholics seem to agree with their view on where Catholicism should be.
You know what, but I'm Catholic. I've lived as a Catholic my whole life, but I haven't heard my fellow Catholics speak so snidely about our faith other than in this email.
But are they speaking snidely?
They talk about it in a way that's hopeful, that's maybe somewhat regretful, but not with disdain about our church and our beliefs.
I don't know that was seen as disdain, whether it was seen as a revolutionary.
They were mocking Rupert Murdoch for having the nerve to baptize his children Catholic.
That's different. They were mocking Rupert Murdoch, and that's, as you and I both would agree, that's not acceptable. But they're not mocking, I believe, is the Catholic Church where it is in America today. What they're saying is that we're the Catholic Church, and specifically the majority of Catholics.
You can't mock a man's decision to baptize his children.
I'm not disagreeing with you on that.
It's not mocking Catholicism or the church.
That's
what it is. That's why they raised it.
Different. I disagree with you on that. I think they mocked. There's no excuse to mock a man for practicing his faith the way he wants to practice it. Let's take Rupert Murdoch out of this equation. I think it's wrong to mock people who believe contraception is morally wrong. I think it's wrong. I'm pro-choice to mock people for their pro-life beliefs. What I do think there's a big difference here is that what they're saying is potentially and actually in step with what the majority of American Catholics believe. The tone.
You already made that point. We already discussed that. Now you're repeating yourself. But the point is that these people who want Trump out there apologizing for everything he did. And he's taken a lot of criticism for not doing that. God forbid they said, they don't even have to send Hillary out there. Why don't you send your director of communications out there to just own what she said and apologize to the millions of American Catholic voters who you're trying to solicit votes from in this election? Well, I'm stealing the last word. I got to go.
See you later.
Love you, mean it.
Bye.
Well, as you heard at the top of the hour, not only does Team Clinton think that they know who's behind these hacks, they think Vladimir Putin and the Kremlin are working hand in hand with the Trump campaign. And there's a developing story on that accusation tonight. Carl Higbee and Nomiki Konst are next on the Cold War claims emerging in 2016. Plus, we'll have the breaking news on a series of ugly new allegations about Trump and women coming out this evening. See what the Trump campaign was on edge about all day today and what they're saying tonight.
He just came strolling right in. There was no second to put a robe on or any sort of clothing or anything. Some girls were topless, other girls were naked.
Suggesting the whole thing is about the Russians and the Trump camp, they claim, working together.
This whole effort is led by the Russians. The Russians, ones that orchestrated this hack.
Russian interference in this election and their apparent attempt to influence it on behalf of Mr. Trump is, I think, should be of utmost concern to all Americans.
And it's more than just the Clinton campaign. Now the White House is involved. Kevin Cork has more from Washington. Kevin?
Hey, Megan, good evening from the White House. Another near 1,200 emails dropped today by the website WikiLeaks. These belonging to blockbuster's capital. And it's just the latest in the ongoing hacking controversy, which White House officials today said points squarely at the Russians. And while Press Secretary Josh Earnest wouldn't exactly say how the administration would respond, he did promise they would.
But what we surely will do is deploy all of the necessary resources to protect our system and to prevent the Russians from succeeding in their attempt to undermine our political system.
While Russian President Vladimir Putin said it doesn't matter who leaked the information, it's the content that's most important. Experts here at the White House were telling us today this is frankly a new page in the old KGB playbook.
The fact that they even can sow some distrust, which is precisely the Russian way. They used to refer to it as kompromat, or compromising information, or maskirovka, deceiving others of their activities. This is part and parcel of what we've seen KGB tradecraft during the Cold War.
Megan, Secretary of State John Kerry is expected to raise the issue once again on Saturday when he meets with his Russian counterpart in Switzerland. To what effect, of course, remains to be seen. Megan?
Kevin, good to see you. Joining me now, Carl Higbee, former Navy SEAL and Trump supporter, and Nomiki Konst, former Bernie Sanders surrogate and host of The Filter on Sirius XM Progress. So Nomiki's getting over the fact that this was not leaked during the primary season when Bernie was still in the race, but it wasn't. It wasn't. And you know, as hard as we've been on Team Hillary for what the content of those leaks, they do have a point that Russia messing with an American election is deeply problematic on a number of levels.
Absolutely. It's a good Democratic friend of mine said this today. He says it's as if we were too focused on the documents from Watergate and not enough on the break-in. That's what we need to be focusing on, is the break-in. That's the illegal matter. And, you know, it is true. All intelligence officials say that Guccifer and the D.C. leaks and WikiLeaks, Guccifer provided the leaks to D.C. leaks and WikiLeaks. And Guccifer is directly related. It is funded. It is controlled by the Russian intelligence agency. So there's an absolute connection between this. And the timing couldn't be more unfortunate. And not only that, Roger Stone, who was an advisor to Donald Trump, Paul Manafort was on the books with the Ukrainian party that was controlled by Putin. You have General Allen, who is in negotiations with RTTV, a television agency that is funded by the Russian government. All of these people are advising Donald Trump, Donald Trump says this was just done by hackers. How do we know it wasn't some 400-pound guy in his basement? Well, he got a national security briefing. That's how we know. He's been informed.
You know, when Putin comes out and says it doesn't matter who leaked, just say, what does it matter? Just look at the content. You're welcome. That's what he's trying to say. It's kind of a tell.
Yeah, the Clinton campaign would love to make this about Russia because it takes the pressure off what the content of the emails is. Look, the fact of the matter is WikiLeaks has dropped bombs on Republicans. They've dropped it on Democrats. They're going to continue to drop this. But what a Hillary Clinton campaign wants to do is take the pressure off of what's in the actual emails. The fact that they're talking about Catholics, the fact that they're talking about all the internal workings of the campaign that are just really negative right now. It's not going to work.
But what do you make of the fact that Roger Stone, he's out tonight saying that he does have back-channel communications with WikiLeaks, but he doesn't coordinate with WikiLeaks, which makes it sound like the Trump camp, through this former advisor and maybe current informal advisor, is working this.
Well, I know Nomiki, but I don't have any back channels to the Liberal campaign. So, I mean, like, it's the same kind of thing. He may know somebody.
He's saying he does have back channel communication.
He may know somebody over there, but look, I don't think the Russians have anything to do with this. I think that's a completely ridiculous thing. Even people say that we have ideas that it is, but there's been no proof so far.
Do you have any hesitation about, as I've said before, dining off the carcass of somebody's dead privacy rights? I mean, Podesta's, Palmieri's, everybody's.
The thing is, the media, not all media, but some media has thrown the cloak of invisibility over Hillary Clinton. It's coming out through WikiLeaks now, and they don't know what to do. They don't know how to. They're in crisis mode.
What would Donald Trump do if suddenly Russia hacked his taxes? How would he feel about that?
Well, somebody did hack his taxes, and they put it out.
But Russia
they leaked it. By the way, General Allen endorsed Hillary.
Excuse me, General Flynn.
Okay.
I'm getting my generals mixed up. Thank you for fact-checking me on that, General Flynn.
Somebody did dump 1 year of Trump's taxes, and guess what? He was like, look, you dumped my taxes. Oh, well, get over it.
Well, that seems like it was a leak by somebody who knew Trump or who had, I know it wasn't.
He dealt with it and got over it.
It didn't seem like a leak. Although, what the hell do I know?
Take responsibility.
Great to see you both.
Thank you, Megan.
Less than 1 week ago, Donald Trump was heard on video talking about groping women. And tonight, there is an explosive series of allegations from multiple women claiming that indeed it happened to them. Chris Stirewalt and Dana Perino join us next on That Breaking News. Plus, dramatic developments on the polling front. Can you spot it in this map here? Larry Sabato is here to explain. He'll tell us what this change means for Election Day. Don't go away.
Shows on Channel 114, plus every story, every 15 minutes. Fox News headlines 24/7, Channel 115.
Breaking tonight, it's been just 5 days since we first saw the video revealing vulgar comments about women made by Donald Trump in 2005.
I gotta use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. I don't even know. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the do anything.
That moment will become the subject of the very first question at the presidential debate just 2 days later, when Mr. Trump was pressed by the moderator, Anderson Cooper.
Have you ever done those things?
Have respect for me, and I will tell you, no, I have not.
Now the Republican nominee is facing new scrutiny tonight as several women come forward claiming they are victims of his sexual advances. First, Jessica Leeds comes forward tonight, who says she was on a flight more than 30 years ago with Trump, wound up sitting next to the young businessman in first class of a commercial air flight.
It wasn't until they cleared the meal that somehow or another the armrest in the seat disappeared, and it was a real shock when all of a sudden his hands were all over me. He was like an octopus. It was like he had 6 arms. He was all over the place. And if he had stuck with the upper part of the body, I might not have gotten that upset. But it's when he started putting his hand up my skirt, and that was it.
Another woman, Rachel Crooks, also speaking out to the New York Times, saying upon meeting Donald Trump in his building, she was just 22 years old. He, quote, kissed me directly on the mouth. She was a secretary at the time. Those accusations echoing the claim made by the former Miss Utah, Temple Taggart, who earlier this year recalled being kissed by Trump without consent, saying, quote, he kissed me directly on the lips. I thought, oh my God, gross. We're also learning, just as we come to air, that a Florida woman has now come forward, claiming to have been groped by Mr. Trump 13 years ago. She claims that he grabbed her backside against her consent. Joining me now, Chris Stirewalt and Dana Perino, co-hosts of Perino and Stirewalt. I'll tell you what, good to see you both. So, I mean, they say that, listening to him at that debate, say that it was just words and he never actually did that stuff he claimed to be doing on the bus, made them come forward, these latest 3. Stirewalt, put it in perspective politically what this means.
Well, look, we now have a perspective on why Trump took the bellicose attitude that he did in that debate on the subject. Instead of being contrite, he was on the attack and presented Bill Clinton's accusers from the 1990s and before against him. We now see why. The why is that they expected this, that they knew that this is going to be a race to the bottom and that there were going to be more allegations and more accusations of misconduct against Trump. So they're trying to steel themselves by bringing back these women from Bill Clinton's past.
And there's another woman named Tasha Dixon, who was part of the Miss Teen USA pageant, who gave an interview today, and here's what she alleged. Listen.
He just came strolling right in. There was no second to put a robe on or any sort of clothing or anything. Some girls were topless, other girls were naked. Our first introduction to him was when we were at the dress rehearsal and half naked changing into our bikinis. I'm telling you, Donald Trump owned the pageant for the reason to utilize his power to get, around beautiful women.
Now, that's just an allegation, but it does track with what Trump himself told Howard Stern back in 2005. Listen.
Well, I'll tell you the funniest is that I'll go backstage before a show. Yes. And everyone's getting dressed and ready and everything else. And, no men are anywhere. And I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it. I'm inspecting. Right. I want to make sure that everything is good.
You're there.
Yeah, the dress. Is everyone okay? They're standing there with no clothes. Is everybody okay? And you see these incredible looking women. And so I sort of get away with things like that.
Dana?
So this is a pattern, right? So he says that, he says to Billy Bush, he has said to Howard Stern, is that he loves being a star. Because when you're a star, you get to do things that, even if he's not actually doing them, right? He's like talking about it and bragging about it. And then his excuse is that, well, men do this and men talk like this in the locker room, which there's been a lot of men who have come forward and said, no, we don't. The Trump supporters and the Trump campaign tonight has said that this New York Times story is completely false. And they're questioning the timing of it.
And threatening to sue the New York Times.
They are. Here's the thing about that, though. They are expecting now for everybody that will be seeing these interviews with these women to not believe them. And one of the things they say in their statement is, how dare you reach back decades and look at possible sexual assaults from way before? Like, how could it matter? But the problem is, that's exactly what they are asking people to do when they're looking at Bill Clinton and having the women who have made allegations against Bill Clinton at the debate and doing events with them and doing interviews. I mean, now it's like they're trying to just muddy the waters. I don't know if I agree with Starwell that they knew this was coming, partly because of the angry denial that you hear Donald Trump make to the New York Times when he's on the phone with the reporter, calling her a disgusting human being for even reporting the story.
Well, I mean, I don't want to go psychological on you, but they say anger is closely related to fear. So, there. I've become Dr. Phil. Let's speak about this in the larger sense. And I do want to underscore that Trump has denied these allegations. Yeah. They're both campaigns are in a pickle because the Clinton camp wants to say, these women who accused Bill Clinton, he was never found guilty. They never had a successful lawsuit. It was 30 years ago. Well, these women, they never had a lawsuit, and the truth is that victims of sexual assault, victims of rape, victims of unwanted groping, they often don't come forward. They're humiliated, especially back in the day. They were told, move along, it happens to all women, you got to take it. It's a complicated
because it would hurt your career.
That's right. It's a complicated situation. Though, I mean, the 22-year-old secretary in Trump Tower is like, it's Donald Trump, right?
She calls her sister.
It's not to say it's real. I don't know whether it happened or not. I'm just saying these matters are complicated. But what's not complicated, Starwell, is how disgusting so many people feel about this election season and how grossed out they are by it. A feeling that was encapsulated by John Oliver a couple of nights ago. Watch. And it's true when you hear these allegations.
Fact check, mostly true.
And honestly, on Twitter the other day, there was a picture of somebody, at a Trump rally wearing a shirt that talked about the C word and Hillary Clinton. And there's been a few of these. And it just makes you feel bad.
Like somewhere Alexander Hamilton is weeping into some sort of a kerchief. Yes.
He's like, remember back in the day when we did it correct, we just shot each other.
And just shot each other in Weehawken, New Jersey.
He's no one to judge, although he did die.
He did die. He definitely died. Look, the thing for Trump is he has a choice. The political playbook says now go destroy these women. The women have come forward to make allegations. Now go destroy them, discredit them, say they're liars, say they're crazy, say they're psychos, rip them apart. Unfortunately, the gambit that they and their campaign manager used was to try to shame Hillary Clinton for destroying the women who accused her husband.
Interesting point.
So they have They have put themselves in a heck of a box here because they need to destroy the credibility of these women, but it is the destroying of women's credibility that they're trying to hoist Hillary Clinton on.
Meantime, before Dana, the polls that came out, this Marquette University poll out of Wisconsin today just shows a cratering with the women. Look at this. Saturday and Sunday, it was, look at the gender gap there that grew as the tape took hold, right? It started off, it hit on Friday, and it was 60% of women for Clinton, 33% for Trump, and it had been 45-36 just the day before, you know, a closer margin. And then it evened out over Saturday and Sunday to 56-23. If you look at the gender gap in all the states, the 538 blog put this together today, and you can see, I mean, she's killing him with women. He's beating her with men. You can see this, but his numbers are, he doesn't have as big a margin. Her margin with women is getting scary for him.
And I think there's probably a lot of women who thought, I would never vote for Hillary Clinton, who are being presented with that choice. The other thing that's very interesting in terms of a statistic, and the Trump campaign has known this from the beginning, and so has the Hillary campaign. In 2016, the entire electorate of eligible voters, 31% are single women. Okay, and that is going to continue to grow. So when we have the big fight after the election about what the Republican Party is going to look like going forward, that obviously has to be a consideration, because that is not going to change.
Right. The women, they're everywhere now, as it turns out.
And they can vote.
And all
Wait a minute, what?
All that crap
Whoa,
about
whoa, whoa,
equality,
whoa, whoa.
they apparently really mean it. It's like,
Like we did, yeah.
like we actually want to be treated as equal citizens. It's so crazy now. Okay, great to see you both.
Bye, guys.
And in just 1 week from tonight, for the first time ever, a Fox News anchor will be moderating a general election presidential debate. I know, we're very happy about this. Award-winning journalist Chris Wallace, widely regarded as one of the best questioners in the business. Did he write this? Will moderate the all-important final debate between Trump and Clinton. This make-or-break event, less than 3 weeks before the historic election of 2016, will be held in Vegas, baby. October 19th. It's Wednesday night, Vegas. Best place to watch the Fox moderated debate is, right here, Fox News Channel. And then stay tuned for a special Kelly File Live at 11 p.m. that night with a complete wrap-up and analysis of the night's biggest moments. I've seen all the questions, and I'm handing them right now to both of them. No, that's not what we do. Okay, I haven't seen any of the questions either, which is sad because I'd like to. Anyway, 27 days to go, and the electoral prediction map is shifting yet again. Larry Sabato is here on the red states, the blue states, and the state of the race next. 27 days to go, and tonight, a state that has voted Republican in every single presidential election since 1964 is now a toss-up. In a surprise development to some, Utah is now up for grabs on November 8th, according to the Fox News Decision Desk. We have Dr. Larry Sabato with us tonight on what the change means for Election Day, but first, we turn to Trace Gallagher to crunch the numbers. Trace?
Megan, the primary reason Utah is now a toss-up is because Donald Trump is very unpopular with Mormons who make up 60% of the state's voters. For the record, Hillary Clinton isn't exactly loved in Utah, which is why Evan McMullin is polling almost even with both Trump and Clinton. McMullin is an independent, BYU grad, and a Mormon. We should note this poll is from Y2 Analytics, and it's the only Utah poll released so far that was taken after the Trump-Billy Bush tape was released. And one poll says 94% of Utahns have seen or heard about the tape. In August, Trump had a double-digit lead in Utah. And for Trump, Utah is the canary in the coal mine. The last time the state voted Democrat was Lyndon Johnson in 1964, and now it's anyone's game. But even without Utah, the Fox News decision team says if Hillary Clinton wins the state's rated solid Democrat, along with the state's leaning Democrat, she'd come out with 307 electoral votes. She only needs 270 to win the presidency. If Trump wins the solid Republican states, along with the states currently seen as leaning Republican, he would still only have 181 electoral votes. Here's the bigger problem for Trump. Even if you give him all the toss-up states, that still only puts him at 231 electoral votes, which means not only is Utah a must-win for Trump, he would also have to steal some states that currently lean Democrat. Megan.
Trace, thank you. Joining me now with more, the director of UVA's Center for Politics, Larry Sabato. Great to see you, Doc. So let's talk about Utah, first of all. Is that real? Could that actually go Democrat?
Well, when I saw it about 5 a.m. this morning, Megan, I figured my eyes weren't focusing.
Right.
And once I realized those really were the numbers, I thought a bunch of excess Californians had moved into Utah.
They got lost.
Utah, exactly, they got lost and wandered in the desert. Utah, as Trace just said, reliably Republican, and we're talking about 70% Republican. Ronald Reagan used to get over 70% in Utah. So it's a shock. I always say this, Megan, I want to see confirmation. This is the first poll that shows it being effectively a three-way tie, and you always have questions, particularly when an independent does this well, though there are reasons. He is a Mormon, BYU grad, and clearly the Mormon population is not terribly keen on Donald Trump. And, of course, Mitt Romney, who has a lot of influence in Utah, is not either.
That would be interesting. Mitt Romney didn't make much of an impact when he came after Trump in the primaries, but perhaps he's playing a role in denying him those electoral votes now. Meantime, you say Florida, Ohio, and Arizona, another state that's usually red, are likely or safe Republican now. Do you believe that? Do you believe Florida and Ohio are safe Republican?
Oh, no. Our map has Florida leaning to Clinton, Ohio leaning to Clinton. We still have Arizona with Donald Trump, but I have to tell you,
my notes are wrong here.
Privately, some of the trackings for both Arizona and Georgia are suggesting that Clinton is very competitive in both of those states. If Trump loses either one of them, he's cooked and done.
He can't lose. Wait, either one of which?
Arizona and Georgia. Arizona and Georgia. Florida, of course, he's done if he loses Florida,
yes,
but
right.
Already Clinton has a lead there. The average is about 3.5, 4 points in Florida. She's ahead a little bit in North Carolina. She's ahead a little bit in Ohio in the polling average. They can still change. But, I'd be concerned if I were on the Trump camp about some of these red states, not just Utah, but also Arizona and Georgia.
Because now the Priorities USA Super PAC is actually moving beyond the race for the White House. They're targeting more the other races, focused on the Senate and so on. And some Democrats are saying, well, they're extremely confident they're going to capture control of the Senate because everybody's going to go to the polls, they believe, to support Hillary. Do you believe that? Do you believe control of the Senate and even the House may be in danger?
Well, certainly the Senate is. I'd be very surprised if the House flipped. The Senate could go either way. We've got it 47 Republicans, 47 Democrats with 6 toss-ups, and those toss-ups will determine the control of the Senate.
Great to see you, Larry. Up next,
thank you.
Republicans and Donald Trump signs. Stay tuned. Campaigns rocked by R-rated controversies and behavior allegedly bordering on the criminal. This next story may seem a little tense in one street.
There are some Trump taking a beating, literally. Trump pen signs are being ripped up, stomped on, and run over. But the vandals may not roam these wealthy streets for long. City officials have now put up surveillance cameras to record these Trump tromps and are releasing the pictures to the public in hopes of identifying and punishing the culprits. Wilton Republican Town Committee Chairman Al Alper says the video shows various cars running over campaign signs that are just off the curb. He says so far at least a dozen campaign signs have been, quote, mutilated or stolen. You can see one picture showing 2 young females running up to the signs, but then clear to the board stickers. In Haverhill, Massachusetts, surveillance video captured a man spray